Do not buy an Apple TV 4K until you've heard what I'm about to tell you. Because if even half of these leaks and rumors about the next-gen Apple TV 4K are true, the box sitting under your TV right now is about to feel very old, very fast. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything we know and everything that's been leaked so far about the upcoming Apple TV 4K for 2025. The new chip, the performance jump, possible AI features, rumor price changes, potential built-in camera, gaming upgrades, and most importantly, whether you should wait or just buy the current model today. So, get comfortable, look at your TV setup for a second, and ask yourself, if Apple turned your TV into a smarter, faster, more powerful hub for your entire home, how much would that be worth to you? Let's start with why people are even convinced a new Apple TV 4K is coming. Apple last updated the Apple TV 4K in 2022, giving it the A15 Bionic chip and cutting the price. That was a big move, but in Apple time, that box is already getting old. Reporters like Bloomberg's Mark Gurman and analysts like Ming-Chi Kuo have both talked about Apple working on a new Apple TV with a faster chip and a more aggressive price. When multiple high-credibility sources repeat the same story over time, that's when you know something is genuinely in the pipeline, not just fan fiction. The most consistent rumor about the next Apple TV 4K is the chip. Instead of the A15, the new box is widely expected to jump to at least an A16 Bionic, and some people even think Apple might go A17 or newer, depending on timing. If you don't speak chip geek, here's what that actually means for you, sitting on your couch in the US, flipping between Netflix, Hulu, Max, and YouTube TV. The A16 is significantly more efficient and more powerful than the A15. You get faster app launches, smoother navigation, less lag when switching users or profiles, and a better experience in heavier apps like games or those bloated streaming apps that always feel a little slow on cheaper devices. If Apple goes with something like an A17 class chip, that's an even bigger leap. At that point, you're basically putting iPhone-level flagship performance in a tiny box behind your TV. And that power isn't just about speed. It's about what Apple can enable on top of it. Apple is all in on on-device intelligence. We've already seen them roll out Apple Intelligence style features on iPhone, iPad, and Mac, focusing on things like better natural language understanding, smarter assistance, and more context-aware suggestions, all processed locally whenever possible. Now imagine that kind of intelligence living on your TV. Rumors and logical deduction together point to a much smarter Siri on the next Apple TV. Not the clunky, half-reliable Siri you might be used to, but something that can actually understand context. Think of commands like, show me a good thriller I haven't watched yet on any of my subscriptions. Play that show my wife started yesterday in the living room, but from the beginning. Find a kid's movie that's under 90 minutes and age-appropriate for a 7-year-old. And your Apple TV actually getting it right. On top of that, with more AI horsepower, you can imagine features like recap and summary. You sit down, hit a button, and it quickly summarizes previously on for a show you dropped 3 months ago. Or it automatically generates subtitles and translations faster and more accurately. None of this is officially confirmed, but Apple's broader strategy strongly points in this direction. And a more powerful Apple TV is the perfect place to bring that experience into the living room. Now, let's talk about the part everyone cares about in the US streaming war economy, price. According to multiple reports over the last couple of years, Apple has been exploring a cheaper Apple TV to finally compete directly with Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Google TV in that under $100 space. The current Apple TV 4K is already cheaper than it used to be, but it's still a premium box. It's what you buy when you're tired of laggy, ad-filled, low-end sticks. The big rumor is that Apple wants to go even more aggressive. One scenario that keeps popping up is a two-model strategy. A more affordable base Apple TV with less storage but a modern chip, and a higher-end model with more storage and possibly extra hardware features, like better I/O or a built-in camera. Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo has previously suggested Apple is targeting that sub-$100 price point for at least one configuration. Why does that matter to you? Because if Apple hits, say, $99 or even less for a modern Apple TV with an A16 class chip, it suddenly becomes a no-brainer upgrade for a huge portion of U.S. households that are currently using slow smart TV apps or a $30 stick that constantly stutters. And if the higher-end model stays around the current price, but with big new features, it becomes the premium streaming box in a very real way, not just marketing. This brings us to something a lot of leaks and patents have hinted at over the years: Apple merging the Apple TV with other home devices. For a long time, there have been reports that Apple is working on a hybrid product, part Apple TV, part HomePod speaker, maybe even with a built-in camera. Combine that with what tvOS can already do with continuity camera, using your iPhone as a camera for FaceTime on your TV, and you start to see where this is going. Imagine a future Apple TV that doesn't need your phone for video calls because it has a camera built in. You sit on your couch, say, "Hey Siri, FaceTime Mom," and boom, her face is on the big screen. The microphone array picks up your voice clearly, and the camera automatically frames the whole family on the couch. Even if Apple doesn't merge everything into a single device in this next generation, the Apple TV is clearly being positioned as the brain of the living room. Your smart home hub, your entertainment center, your lightweight gaming console, your communication device. With the rise of standards like Matter and Thread, the Apple TV is already a core hub for HomeKit devices. A more powerful box with better radios and smarter software makes your entire smart home more reliable, faster automations, more responsive lights and thermostats, and less dependence on cloud services. Now, we need to talk about gaming, because this is where that more powerful chip becomes a big deal in the US market. Apple has been slowly but steadily pushing bigger games onto Apple Silicon. You're seeing console-style titles come to iPhone, iPad, and Mac. A next-gen Apple TV 4K with an A16 or better chip, full support for modern Bluetooth controllers, and a focus on Apple Arcade could quietly become one of the best casual gaming devices in your house. Picture this. You walk into your living room, grab an Xbox or a PlayStation controller, and instantly pick up a game you started on your Mac or iPad, but now on the big 4K screen, with no big console humming in the background. That's not science fiction. It's already partially happening today. A more powerful Apple TV just makes it smoother, prettier, and more capable. And if Apple ever decides to embrace some form of cloud gaming or streaming from a local Mac or even from their own servers, a stronger Apple TV becomes the perfect thin client. Rumors haven't nailed this down yet, but it's an obvious path once the hardware is strong enough and the install base is big enough. Design-wise, don't expect anything crazy, but do expect refinement. Most leaks suggest Apple will stick to the small, minimal box form factor. It disappears into your entertainment center, and that's kind of the point. Where we might see movement is in the remote and the ports. There have already been hints that Apple is experimenting with new remote designs, and one of the most requested features in the US is simple: a Find My-enabled remote so you can stop losing it in the couch cushions. A backlit remote, better ergonomics, maybe even slightly more clicky buttons. All of that is on the table and totally in line with Apple's style of small but meaningful hardware tweaks. As for ports, Apple could further streamline or differentiate between the cheaper and the higher-end model. For example, Ethernet and maybe more advanced wireless features reserved for the premium version, while the base model goes pure Wi-Fi to keep costs down. So, when is this thing actually coming? Apple tends to update the Apple TV on a slower cycle than the iPhone, but we're due for new hardware. Historically, Apple has introduced Apple TV updates via press releases or at smaller fall events alongside iPads and Mac updates, rather than the big iPhone keynote. The most reasonable expectation from the pattern and the reporting we've seen is a launch window somewhere in the 2025 timeframe, likely tied to a tvOS update and a fresh push for Apple TV Plus Connie, NT, and Apple Arcade. To be clear, Apple has not officially announced the next Apple TV 4K yet. Everything we're talking about, chip upgrades, pricing shifts, AI features, camera options, is based on credible leaks, consistent reporting, and reading Apple's broader strategy. Plans can change. Features can be delayed. But the overall direction is unmistakable. More power, more intelligence, more integration, at a more aggressive price. So here's the big question you're probably asking yourself right now. Should you wait for this rumored Apple TV 4K, or is it still worth buying the current one? If you already own the 2022 Apple TV 4K and it's working fine, you probably don't need to upgrade immediately. That box is still very capable, especially for basic streaming. For you, the next model is going to be about want, not need, faster performance, new AI features, possibly better gaming, and a smarter home experience. But if you're using an older Apple TV, like the HD model, or relying on your TV's built-in apps or a cheap, laggy streaming stick, you are the exact person who should seriously consider waiting if you can. Because the jump from that experience to a next-gen Apple TV with a modern chip and smarter software is going to feel massive. And if the rumors about a lower entry price are accurate, you might end up paying less than you think for a dramatically better setup that could easily last you 4, 5, even 6 years. Here's what I'd do if I were in your position in the US right now. If your current streaming experience is tolerable, hold off. See what Apple does with the next Apple TV 4K, how they price it, and what AI and home features actually ship. If your current setup is driving you crazy, apps crashing, laggy menus, random reboots, and you need a solution today, then the current Apple TV 4K is still a solid buy. Just go into it knowing that a more powerful, more intelligent version is very likely on the way. Now I want to hear from you. If Apple gave you full control over the next Apple TV 4K, what's the one feature you would absolutely demand? A built-in camera for FaceTime? A cheaper base model under $100? Serious gaming features? A remote you can finally stop losing? Drop your answer in the comments, because I'm going to be reading them to see what the real-world priorities are. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want to stay ahead of the leaks as more news about the 2025 Apple TV 4K drops, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'll be covering every new rumor, every confirmed feature, and of course, giving you my honest recommendation the moment Apple makes this box official. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.